Characters of a C- internet review show. You have been summoned here to answer the question of how to review what has been reviewed 1,000,000 times over.
Jim.
Bring forth the ring. Done.
Rhino!
Why did I give that to you, anyway?
My name is the closest to Frodo.
Oh, yeah.
One does not simply review the Lord of the Rings movies.
Or make that gesture with your hand, because he didn't do that when he delivered the line in the movie.
There are years of people dissecting every little moment, every little detail, every single letter not in the book.
But Rings of Power made some changes, and that won everybody over. That didn't win everybody over, did it?
As much as the Gollum game.
He's right. We cannot review it.
You have only one choice.
Wait, why was the camera tracking in on me like that?
We shot like 80 hours of footage. Feel lucky that our lines are even in order.
Agreed. Sometimes we basically edit to the same shot. See?
We have to figure out how to review this in a unique way.
What about satirizing the movie? Nobody's ever done that.
Do you watch anything?
Nope.
How about a clipless review?
Yeah, that'll work out great with Mr. Chronic Fatigue over here.
Almond milk.
We can't have just a straightforward review. We need to do something unique.
And I suppose you think you're the one to do it!
I'm out of coffee, and that makes me angry.
In the last shot I was standing, so why am I standing again?
You're seriously considering
I'll do it! I'll review the movie!
No, absolutely not.
That's stupid.
Sit down, you embarrassment.
Ooh, my mother's last words to me.
Look, everyone's done a parody and satire of the Lord of the Rings, including us.
Yeah, maybe just talking straightforward about it makes the most sense.
Yeah, but it's gonna be tricky. I know in many films and franchises people overuse the phrase "there was never anything like it," but really there never was anything like Lord of the Rings. It's been adapted before, but never in a way that left a cultural impact. In fact, for years, fans thought it couldn't be adapted. It was just too big. Well, Peter Jackson had a plan and convinced New Line Cinema to take a big gamble, allow him to shoot 2 films at the same time, condensing the Lord of the Rings trilogy. When one of the producers said, "Wait, aren't there 3 books? Shouldn't we make it 3?" Jackson shrugged and said, "Well, if you gotta." He must have been a good negotiator, because not only did he get an unbelievable budget and honestly a fair amount of creative control, but he convinced New Line that the director of this was the perfect choice. I can't imagine planning all 3 of these films and having them be as good and popular as they are. It took something that was celebrated mainly in just geek culture and book clubs and turned it into a worldwide phenomenon. Before these movies, the average person didn't know what a hobbit was, even with the musical stylings of Leonard Nimoy.
Bilbo Baggins, bravest little hobbit of them all.
With that said, yes, this needed to connect with as many people as possible given the budget and that there were going to be 2 more of them, so there are things that most fans acknowledge are needed to win over the average person, but weren't always the best.
Nobody touches a dwarf!
It's going to be difficult to sum up why these incredibly long films made such a huge impact, but we have a whole month dedicated to it, so we're going to give it a try. And because there's so much movie to discuss, the best way to go about it is to just discuss it.
Wait, then why did we do a parody sketch in the opening?
This isn't a sketch. This is just us talking.
No, we're clearly all characters.
I'm not a character.
Let's talk about the first and shortest film of the bunch. At 3 hours, let's take a look at Fellowship of the Ring. The film opens in a magical land called Middle-earth, where we get the backstory about the forging of powerful rings, one of them made by an evil villain named Sauron.
The Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring.
And yeah, I know I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't like Sauron's design. I like you never see his face or hear him talk, and being covered in metal is on brand for these villains. But I'm sorry, this is supposed to be the great deceiver, the ultimate evil, and he looks like a Marvel villain. Not a good one either, he's like that mini-boss in Thor. Even his lizard eye going, "Nah, nah, 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 nah," just seems laughably over the top. Say what you want about dorky helmet guy in the Bakshi version, but he was literally a shadow, and I think he's scarier as just a shadow. Simply being talked about and using your imagination. I know I'm a minority on that, I just don't find this guy scary. Luckily though, everything else about this intro is pretty badass. Showing an alliance of men and elves fighting creatures called orcs in Sauron's homeland Mordor. Thank you for coming towards us from that angle, it looked really cool. King Isildur destroys Sauron by chopping off the ring, customized to fit any size, and it slips from person to person over the years.
But something happened then the ring did not intend.
It fell in cow shit. No, it's picked up by a hobbit named Bilbo, played by Ian Holm, who carries it back home to the Shire, and years later his nephew Frodo, played by Elijah Wood, is joining the others celebrating Bilbo's birthday with his wizard friend Gandalf, played by Ian McKellen. That mention, by the way, might be the first movie to fulfill every Internet Geek's fan casting.
A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Are they seeing who can hold a fart the longest? What are we doing? Actually, that would explain their awkward laugh immediately after. We're classy here. Gandalf tours the Shire filled with small people and small pigs and small sheep and small dogs. Yeah, how does this work? And I know, again, I've mentioned this before, but I'm really not the biggest fan of this film's editing. I don't blame the director. I don't even really blame the editor. Like I said, this was a beast of a production. They have footage up the wazoo to get across very quickly in a way everybody can comprehend and be interested in. That's a lot to ask of anyone, and mistakes are going to be made. But sometimes the fast cuts do result in moments that just don't feel right.
Half the Shire's been invited.
Good gracious me.
He's up to something. Mm-hmm. All right, then, keep your secrets.
That is just not a natural back and forth. A lot of fans introduce newcomers to the extended version, and I don't think that's wise either. Yeah, it's neat, I'm glad it exists, but a lot of it isn't needed, and I think it drag out too long for first-timers. Except for this one. And even then, not all the way, like up to where they get to Rivendell. Because you're setting up the main characters, and that is going to take a little more time.
He's up to something. All right, then, keep your secrets.
I like building up Bilbo's appearance, but the extended version sets up these people a lot better.
Half the Shire's been invited, and the rest of them are turning up anyway.
See? Doesn't that feel more like how people talk? Even Sam, the guy the movie is literally gonna end on, gets just one moment of him looking at a woman, and then they're like, you're a main character now, off you go! And yet, the extended version doesn't add a ton, but it's just enough to make us connect with them a bit more. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
We don't want any more visitors, well-wishers, or distant relations.
And what about preachers of Jesus?
I want to see mountains again. Mountains, Gandalf.
I think most people know there's a lot of practical effects and forced perspective to make the height differences for the hobbits look more convincing, and they're really well done. Though I always thought it was a little weird they spent millions and millions on this and didn't just hire little people. Oh, except for the far-off shots, which kind of makes me question it even more. They're good enough for the far-off shots, but not the close-ups. I don't know, maybe they want actors who were somewhat well-known, and yeah, these weren't huge stars, but they were known. And there weren't really that many little people stars back then, so it feels a little odd, but it doesn't take away from the great performances all these people give.
111 years old. Well, it's
Have you been drinking Mario Lopez blood? They throw a big party complete with Mary Poppins fireworks. Speaking of Mary, two hobbits named Merry and Pippin, played by Dominic Monaghan and Bailey Boyd, are causing trouble.
That was good. Let's get another one.
We like to thank guest director Blake Edwards for shooting that scene.
My dear Bagginses and Buffins, Ruds, Chubs,
Hey, watch the slurs.
Goodbye.
Bilbo surprises him by putting on the ring and disappearing, planning to leave the ring with Frodo, yet he finds it has a strange hold on him.
You want it for yourself!
Baggins! Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.